gentlemen, welcome back to math. Today, it's a very simple concept. We've been covering graphs of how to graph, elevator walk. We've also covered how to solve for slope, how to solve an equation in slope-intercept form, point slope. Today, we're going to graph an equation, but we're also going to shade a part of it, okay? These kind of equations are called inequalities, okay? So the concept for today is called graphing inequalities. So graphing inequalities. The whole point of today is, in order to graph an equation, we have to leave it in slope-intercept form. Sometimes it's not in that form. I'm going to show you how to solve for an equation, leave it in slope-intercept. Then we graph it. Then once we graph it, we have to shade it, okay? Notice that here's our equation for today. Instead of the equal sign, today we're going to have, since we're dealing with inequalities, we're going to have a greater than, okay? Which means that whenever you're dealing with greater than or less than, sometimes you might say equal to as well. Whenever you have a greater than or a greater than equal to, meaning you shade above, okay? You shade above for both of them. Guess what? When you have a less than or less than equal to, you shade below, okay? Notice that one of them has a line, one doesn't. This means that your line that's going to connect your dots is, for the bottom one, it's going to be solid. So the line's going to be solid. Where on the top one, your line is going to be dotted, okay? Dotted line when there's no line on the bottom. Solid line when there's a line on the bottom, okay? So greater than, shade above. Less than, shade below. The same with the less than, the one without the line has to be dotted. The one with the line on the bottom is solid, okay? Now that we know the very basics of it, we can go back to our equation. Notice that the equation is not in slope-intercept form or in linear equation. What we have to do is we have to solve, leave y alone, okay? The first thing we have to move is, let's start off with the simple stuff, the 4x. We're going to move it to the other side. The opposite, again, think of the greater than as an equal sign for now. So the same thing that if it's positive, we're going to move to the other side, it becomes negative. So we have negative 4x. Now it's over here, negative 4x. Cancels out. We're left with 2y greater than. I always like to put the variable first. That's the way to do it. Okay? Negative 4x plus, because 6 was positive, 6. Remember, we're solving for y. We still don't have y alone. We have one last step to do. Whenever you have a number with a variable, the opposite of multiplication is division, right? So we divide by 2. Notice that when that happens, you have to divide everything on the other side also by 2. Cancels out the 2's, right? Because it turns out for y. So we have y. Notice that the number we divided by was positive, so you keep the same sign, okay, the way it is, greater than. If we would have been divided by a negative number, then the sign would have flipped and would have been less than. Okay, so that's a little rule. Now we have a negative and a positive. 2 can go into 4 2 times. Remember, positive and negative is negative. So negative 2x. 2 can go into 6 3 times, plus 3. We have one more step before we can actually graph it, and that step is make the number next to the x, your slope, into a fraction, right? Because elevator, elevator, 1. Notice that it's a full number, so we do a 1. So our new equation is y greater than negative 2x over 1 plus 3. Now we can actually start graphing. Remember, guys, if I'm going too fast for you, if you need more time, make sure you pause the video throughout. Okay? The same for the future videos. If you need time, pause the video, get down everything on your notes from the board, and then you can resume the video. Now, remember, we solved for it. We had y greater than negative 2 over 1x plus 3. So now we're going to graph it. But before we graph it, we have to always label. Okay? Makes it a lot easier. Remember, your last number, your constant, is your first elevator. The number on top of the fraction is your second elevator. First elevator, second elevator, and then your denominator is your what? Your numerator is your elevator. Your denominator is your walk. Now that we have it labeled, we have it solved for in slope-intercept form, we can actually graph it. Remember, we always get beaten to the elevator. The guy that beats us to the elevator wants to go up 3 floors from the lobby. So we're in the center. We're going to go up 3 because he's on the 3rd floor. We make our first dot there. Now, we're going to go down 2 floors. Okay? So we're going to go down, because it's negative, 2 floors, and then 1 to the right. Always to the right because the bottom is always positive. Okay? Now that we have both points, here's the question. Is it a dotted or solid line? Notice that there's no line on the bottom, so it is dotted. Okay? So we're going to dot our line. I like to do this. I like to do my line, and then I just cut it in pieces. Can't really tell because that makes it a little better. There we go. All right, notice that I missed the point by a little, but it's okay. I mean, this is an art class. We have to be perfect. But now that we have our line, in order to finish up this equation, we have to shade. That's the whole point of today. We're graphing inequalities. Inequalities mean you have to shade. Where you have to shade, if you guys remember, on the corner I had, if you shade below or above, this is greater than, so we shade above. So notice that this is the top of the line, so we shade all of this here. And that's how we graph inequalities. So here's your assignment. The assignment for today is (2x) plus 2y equals 4. And then your second one is 3x minus 2y equals 8. Okay? Make sure you solve for them first. Put them in point-slope formula. Then, or slope-intercept formula. Label it, a little bit of walk. Make sure you graph it, and then you shade it. Okay? Make sure you send me your answers as soon as you're done watching the video. I'll be waiting for your email.